Hello again and welcome to part 4. So you've already looked at thinking about the kind of career you should choose, how to engage in an effective job search in a tough market, and we thought about how to get better results from your CV. In this part we're going to give you some insider secrets in the interview game. So getting employers to say yes in that demanding interview situation. It's worth beginning by thinking about the mistakes that people commonly make in interviews. So what do they do wrong? Well, when you ask employers, what they typically say is that the biggest mistake that candidates make is a failure to match themselves to the job and the organisation. And that's the boring stuff. That's the proper homework that you need to do. But it needs a little bit of skill because you need to get behind job descriptions. You need to start to understand what an employer is really looking for. So my tip for you would be to just think about the 4 or 5 things that an employer is going to be really worried about and make sure you have your evidence matched to those needs. And if necessary, you can talk about your matching qualities and skills right at the beginning of the interview when the interviewer says, "Tell us about yourself." So that's the first thing, is very careful matching, and we've got an exercise at the end of this part to show you how to do that. The second thing is to think about the opening moments of the interview. Now, people say that interviewers make a decision in the first 60 seconds of an interview. That's not entirely true. What they do is they make a decision about you as a person. They make a decision about how personable you are, whether you're friendly, whether you're open, whether you're going to fit in. And they do that from lots of signals. So it's about the way you dress, the way you behave, and more than anything else, the way you respond to opening questions. Now, bearing in mind that the opening question could be about the weather or the traffic, it pays to practice the small talk, to come up with something that's short and positive, and make sure that your voice is nice and clear in the room, and be ready for those opening questions which look at things like job content. So a typical question would be, tell us about the job that you're doing at the moment. Now that's a great opening for you. The way to get it wrong is to spend far too long talking about the organisational structure and how you fit into it. The best way is to talk about what you're actually doing at the moment and perhaps give some hints about how you'd like to build on your experience and your success in a new role. Start to sell the idea of your career story. So don't forget though that the opening is also about whether you look the part and sound the part. So dress as if you already work there. That's a great and important tip for an interview. And that might mean actually getting some research in advance, talking to people and just dressing slightly smarter than people who work in that organisation all the time. If you think about an interview as a screen test, that may help. So if you're going to a screen test for a movie, somebody's putting a camera in front of you and trying to get a sense of whether you fit the part. And that's what an interviewer is like. An interviewer is constantly looking at you and thinking, will this person fit into the team? Can I put this person in front of my colleagues or my customers? Am I going to look good if I make this hiring decision? The same thing is true if you have to make a presentation, by the way. A presentation really is a fantastic opportunity for an audition to show an employer that you are going to make an impact and fit in. So I want to give you some planning tips. So really to think ahead. Planning stuff is largely around job content, and that's fine. So have some good material prepared, some claims and some evidence, as we covered in our CV part, but also just plan for the basics. So know exactly where you're going, allow plenty of time. When you get there, leave your coat and your bag and your umbrella and any other kind of outdoor props that you have, leave them behind in reception. Just go into the interview room carrying a folder or a single piece of paper, your CV perhaps, it's just some documents. So you look as if you work there already. It's an important psychological trick. And when you get to the interview, to the end of the interview, and somebody says to you, do you have any questions for us? Your answer should always be, yes, I do. And ask questions about the future of the job. So don't ask questions about how much I'll be paid or whether there's a pension scheme. You'll find all that stuff out later. Ask about the future of the job. So how will this job develop? What will I learn? What training opportunities will I have? How is the organisation going to be changing over the next 12 months? because those things really help somebody picture you in the job. And that's one of the ways that you get an employer to say yes. So what I'm trying to encourage you to do is to work hard on the things that really matter. So it's personal preparation, it's preparing your evidence, it's preparing your story, and it's having some really good skills information at your fingertips. If you think of skills information as a series of short stories, you're not going to go far wrong. So that's about listening for that opportunity when an interviewer says, tell us about a time when you've used this skill, and using that moment to say, yeah, here's a time when I did something personally, this is my particular contribution, this is what I did, and this is the outcome. So the skill, your contribution, and the outcome. Very simple story structure. Remember a series of those and you will do pretty well during the course of an interview. But more than anything else, think about everything you've done so far as a story that you want to get across. So don't apologise for your CV. Don't apologise for wanting to change sector or do something different. If you're trying to move into the voluntary sector, for example, don't apologise about your lack of experience or knowledge. Try and sell someone the idea that this is a complete story, and the next natural step in this story is the job which is on offer. So, some thoughts for you there about getting more out of the interview process. What we've got here is an exercise now that encourages you to analyse what an employer is really looking for. On the left-hand side, I'd like you to drill down into the information which is available to you and try to come up with your hit list in terms of what you think the employer is really looking for. Your matching evidence is a simple list of bullet points, if you like, but encapsulating particular moments where you used a skill, particular achievements that you're proud of, so that when you go into the interview, you don't have to improvise or make it up. You've already got in the back of your mind some great evidence. So thank you for listening to these steps. If you want to know more about interviews, you can find a lot more in my book, The Interview Expert. And I would also recommend that you come along to Forum 3. Forum 3 is a regular event which brings together people from a wide range of backgrounds and looks at opportunities within the third sector. So perhaps see you at Forum 3, and thank you for taking part in this learning event.